Joining us now is Alex Marlow, editor-in-chief of Breitbart.com and host of the Alex Marlow Show. Alex, great to see you again, my friend.
Charlie, it's been too long. Congrats on all the great success. Always a pleasure to be on your terrific show.
Thank you. So it's really interesting. As Caroline Leavitt's doing this press conference, it was a perfect segue. It was all about lawfare and these judges. It's very confusing to some people in our audience, understandably, because they say, wait a second, how can you tell me that a federal judge in the Northern Mariana Islands has the ability to veto a president? Walk us through the facts of the case, and then we'll go deeper.
Yeah, and there's many cases, and this is going to be the new normal, because if you think about it, Charlie, look at how the left is operating right now. They're completely lost. It's the hey, hey, ho, ho, Elon Musk has got to go, is not going to fight what Trump has got going right now. I mean, think about his Sunday, Charlie. He's playing golf with Tiger Woods. He's banning plastic straws. He's shutting down the penny. And then he's going to the Super Bowl. He's getting cheered. Taylor Swift's getting booed. You can't stop that on a cultural level. Legislatively, we got the numbers. We keep getting our confirmations through. This is all they've got left. All they've got left is the lawfare, and they've built this superstructure over decades. A lot of these judges that are stopping him right now are appointed not just by Biden, not just by Obama, but dating back to Bill Clinton. These judges are standing in his way, and they're going to continue to do that because of the way the system is in its nature. Basically, what happens is that you can file a complaint, and then the complaint can go if you target a specific area where you know there's a good chance you're going to get a liberal judge. It's different from region to region, but there are judges that are on call. Sometimes you know when a judge is specifically there fielding these emergency orders. If you claim something's an emergency and the judge is a Democrat donor, is a Democrat appointee, is someone who's an activist lawfare judge, they're going to have the ability to put a preliminary injunction or a temporary restraining order on a lot of Trump's agenda, and that's going to shut it down at least for a period of time, either for a set amount of time or for an amount of time where it can work its way through the court, eventually, hopefully get to a more conservative court and get overturned. But this is a potent weapon, and there's not a super easy solution to it.
So let's go through some of the details here. What are the more egregious judicial interventions that we are seeing right now?
Thank you for asking. I have a piece on this, which you were kind enough to tweet, which I appreciate, at Breitbart News. And I've got 7 of them, but there's been 1 or 2 since I put out this 7. So take this Judge Angel Kelly from the U.S. District Court of Massachusetts, nominated by Biden. This is a person who is a DEI hire, a person who has admitted that she's basically been elevated because she's African-American, she's Asian, and she uses DEI hiring when she does her hiring. This is her whole background, and she's someone who Elizabeth Warren has described as someone who's made a personal mission to bring about change through her role on the bench. And what she's done is she's shut down Trump and Musk's effort to put a cap on overhead spending for the National Institute of Health. This is stuff that's not going to funding any sort of research, anything that's actually important that might actually make us healthier potentially. This is just pure waste. This is just pure administrative abuse. They're not even shutting it down. They want to put a cap at 15% of the expenditures. Max can go to this. And she said, no, we're shutting it down. And so this is just one example. This is a person who is known for blocking a officer's First Amendment rights to complain about the George Floyd Act on his personal Facebook. That's her wiring, citing bogus Black Lives Matter talking points when she's done that. One of many examples. Another judge, Senior Judge Amy Berman Jackson from the U.S. District of Columbia. This is a person who built her reputation, not just donating to Democrats, which she did, but an Obama appointee. But she's known for jailing the J6 prisoners.
Goodness.
So she's basically built the second half of her career on being one of the main attack dogs, trying to lock up the J6 prisoners. And what she's done in a clearly partisan thing is that she recently put a temporary restraining order on Trump's efforts to fire a person from the Office of the Special Counsel that Biden appointed. So Trump's trying to shut down a deep state person, fire them, routine stuff. You think a president should be able to do this? Not according to the great Amy Berman Jackson. The list goes on and on. Chief Judge John J. McConnell of the U.S. District Court of Rhode Island. This is one that people have been has been the news in the bit for a bit because Daily Caller's been on top of this guy. He's blocking a spending freeze that Trump has. So another thing where Trump can't stop spending, he can't fire people unless he wants to run into, all it takes is one of these liberal judges. This guy is a mega donor to Democrats, not a run-of-the-mill donor. He had built a huge war chest for himself in the private sector. Then he goes into a judgeship, and he's able to just do his left-wing work from the bench. It's a catastrophe for the rule of law and for our own democracy. People who care about democracy, Charlie, this is the biggest threat going on right now.
So, and I want to reiterate this point, and Alex, I think you'll appreciate this. In Brazil and Israel to a lesser extent, they have a super judiciary that basically runs the country. There is an elite class of entrenched legal minds that have a veto over the will of the people. We are not there yet, but based on this behavior, we are blindly barreling towards that.
Oh, you're 100% correct on this. I was thinking about one. I think this is one you highlighted on your X account. This senior judge, Colleen Collar-Cotterly, who openly mocked a Christian to their face. There's a dying person who had been sentenced by her to jail, 77 years old, for protesting at an abortion mill. And she just mocked this family, saying, make every effort to stay alive as part of the tenets of your religion. We people are overly mocking Christians on the bench, blocking Trump's agenda right now. And this is the tip of the iceberg. Those are half of the examples I highlight in my piece. We're on the brink of something that is really, the left wants to talk about a constitutional crisis. When judges are openly subverting the democratically elected president at this level, and it's not going to stop, this is going to continue, then we are really at a level where it is, the court is asserting itself above the other branches of government at this time.
And this is a deeper point, but you think about it, we have a super legislative power. They say you must do everything Congress says, even things that it doesn't says, it just implies. And then we have a super judicial, and it is the shrinking and the vanishing of Article 2. The presidency doesn't have power of the bureaucracy, but judges in Congress does? How does that work?
Oh, it's an amazing thing, because you watch it and you think that we put all this culturally, we have all this time spent on the presidential election. It's the greatest TV show on earth, is watching the presidential election, just the sport of it, the pure sport of politics. And then Trump gets in there and he's trying to do stuff, like the exact stuff he promised he was going to do. And these people who none of us have ever heard of, and I study this stuff religiously. I hadn't heard of most of these names, Charlie. A couple of these names I'd heard of. Most of them I hadn't even heard of until the last couple of weeks. And all of a sudden, they're just standing athwart 70 plus million Americans in 30 states and saying, no, you don't get to have what you want. It's so outrageous. And the sad part is there's no real easy recourse to stop them.
So how do you see this settling? Because unfortunately, the only answer is time. Right? Yeah. Because then it has to work its way up eventually to the Supreme Court. But in the current form or fashion, all it takes is one judge to be able to veto the activity of a president.
Yeah, that's exactly the situation we're in. If you file the right complaint at the right area, then you can at least get temporary restraining orders and these preliminary injunctions that's going to slow down the agenda in a big way. So here's what you got to do. The first thing is Trump's flood the zone approach is correct, because even though from a news perspective, I wish we could dwell on some of the victories for a little longer, Charlie, and I think you're probably in agreement on that. It'd be fun to take more time to celebrate some of the great stuff that's happening, but we got to move on to the next thing. But that's the right approach, because they're just not, even though the left is very strategic, they've got this huge lawfare superstructure, make them work in order to block all this stuff. So if they block a quarter of it, that's not great, but it's better than them blocking half. It's better than them blocking, 75% of a much smaller agenda. So keep the agenda broad, keep going. But we also have to win every single election. This is why the work you do, Turning Point Action, is so big. People have to make sure that we're running up the score, because the bigger our majorities are in the Congress and in the Senate, then there's more options that we have, because we can start using the Constitution, the legislature, to be able to expand our rules and change some of these rules. I was thinking about the other day, the Ninth Circuit's too big. We got to limit the Ninth Circuit. The 11th Circuit's new. It only came out in the 80s. Let's do stuff like that. Let's start thinking outside the box. Let's start tapping guys like Senator Lee, who's really good on this stuff. Let's pick his brain. What do we got to do here to come outside the box, stuff we never thought of, to try to limit some of their power? It's going to take years for some of it, but let's start thinking now and be prepared. So just like Trump did with his executive orders at the start of his administration, the second we have the numbers, let's run headlong into it and then make them stop us.
By the way, circuit courts are a created idea of the Congress. It is not in the Constitution. I'm not saying it's unconstitutional. I'm saying it's not in the Constitution. You don't need circuit courts. Only the U.S. Supreme Court was originally authored. Congress has authority to get rid of these. Oh, we don't need an 11th Circuit, get rid of the 9th Circuit. I mean, these judges are playing with fire. Alex, please plug your stuff so our audience can follow you and support you.
We're colleagues now. Alex Marlowe Show on Salem, and wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Rumble, iTunes, Spotify, and it's going incredibly well. So if any of you are in my audience as well, thank you. So it's going great, and we're off to a great start. And Charlie, I'd love to have a long sit down with you whenever you get the chance.
Alex, thanks so much. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.